Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode. Yes, we've reached the second episode of Road to Le Mans. This week, the Mazda MX-5 Cup, as you just saw there, is at the Okayama International Circuit. Very tricky track this one because it is only 8 corners, so it's very difficult to find lap time. And what you're seeing in the background is our second qualifying lap for our first race of the week at Okayama. Now, those of you who are into iRacing will know that this isn't the race this week. Full disclosure, a lot of the videos that you're going to see have been pre-recorded a few weeks in advance, just so I can build up a little bit of a backlog. So this is actually in, I believe, week 10 or week 9 of the last season, so season 4 2021. So this happened a few weeks ago now. But today, the big goal, if you watched the last episode, which if you haven't, go and check it out, because it was a rather good one, I think. We are trying to get out of rookies today. We've got a safety rating going into the episode of 2.71. And we're going to try today to get our safety rating up above that magic 3.0 that we need. We've already done the minimum amount of races you need to do, so it's all about safety rating in this episode. As you can see, coming across the line at the minute, we are currently on pole, the 101.5. Ricardo behind manages to beat us with the 101.2. But we then smash it out of the park with a 10.697, pole by about half a second there, and a comfortable gap to the guys behind. We had a lot of pace straight out of the bag really here at Okayama. It's, like I said, it is a very short lap, it's a very difficult lap, and it's very hard to find time, so half a second is actually quite a lot. But as we go then to the 5 red lights, or 4 red lights I should say, and we are underway here at Okayama, finally managed to get a decent start. And the one thing you need to know about this track and this car combination is the first lap on cold tyres is an absolute nightmare. The car just wants to rotate at pretty much every single corner, especially this one. You have to brake so much earlier than I would normally. And, it's easy to catch out. You see, we're doing a Tokyo drift, but in the background, F's in the chat here, Ricardo entering stage right straight into that wall, and he is pretty much out of the running in this one. And, at this point, I was thinking, we're in the clear. We've got a nice easy race. You can see in the bottom left there, sorry, bottom right, that João Paulo Ramo, he's behind us. He qualified about 2.5 seconds off the pace, but somehow in the race, his pace was incredible. You can see at the end of lap number 2 here. Yes, end of lap number 2. We've only got a 1.5 second lead over him. We've gapped everyone else by like 5 seconds already. So he actually put us under a lot of pressure. And here, we're on the final lap now. He's actually stayed within a second for the whole race. So this was actually quite a sweaty one. Unfortunately for him, fortunately for us, however, he never really got close enough to have a move. I think we only picked up 1, maybe 2 incident points in this race, so we're definitely going to be gaining a lot of safety rating. But yeah, he just wasn't able to do anything. Like I said, 15 lap races, so the races, you've got to do more laps of the track, much more mistake opportunity to be made, especially with some of these corners being as tricky as they are. But we come around the final corner. We won the final race of last episode. We've won the first race of this one, back-to-back race victories, 3 podiums in 4 races in iRacing so far. So yeah, we're managing this transition pretty well, I have to say. The second race, however, we paid the price for being quite so good in the first few races. We got put into a much sweatier lobby. You can see the top 7 there covered by a second, when in the last race I got pole by nearly 6/10. So much closer. You can see me and Diego extremely close. So I was expecting this race to be, it's going to be a straight fight between us two, was what I was thinking. And then, Nicola and William about half a second off us, so they might be in the mix. But I thought me and Diego were going to run away with this one. However, that's not quite what happened. So as we go to the 4 red lights and we get away, it's a decent start. We get away pretty well, not quite as good as Diego, but we're not under pressure. We've got P2 locked down. And, at this point I'm thinking, right, just stick with Diego. We'll pull away from the rest of the pack. For some reason I downshifted to first there. That was not a good idea. You can see Nicola having a little sniff around the rear end. But nothing to worry about at this point. Taking it easy through here. You see Diego goes very wide through here, much wider than we do. Does help him on the second part, so I'm not really sure if that's a line through there or not. We take a lot of grass through there though, it means we get a poor run off this corner. But at this point I'm thinking we're safe. Nicola's 2/10 behind, but look in the mirror, because you're about to see an absolute send up the inside. We have a bit of door-to-door contact. You see at the top we get car contact, but it says 0x, so that's not going to give us any safety rating issues. But yeah, that was a very aggressive move that I wasn't quite anticipating on the first lap. So we're down to P3, and that's allowed Diego to get away a little bit, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted the clear air to put the pressure on Diego, but now we need to try and get past Nicola. And as we said last week, with the way the safety rating works and the fact that we need safety rating, we can't afford contact. And around this circuit, like I mentioned, it is extremely difficult to overtake. To jump onto lap number 5, you can see we're still in P3. and not quite able to get past the driver in front. I have noticed one of the things, you do get to know each other's driving styles following around for 4 or 5 laps, is that we were extremely good under brakes compared to Nicola. And that's something we're going to have to bear in mind, especially in the laps to come, because that, I think, is going to be our only chance at really being able to make a move. You can see down this mini straight here, not really getting close enough, but we're so much better under brakes. You can see, getting nice and close. Nicola has a little bit of a wobble halfway through the corner. Goes very wide, so we're going to try and go for a switchback here. But it doesn't really work in these cars. They're not really powerful enough for the switchback to really work. So although we do get a bit of a better exit, we're a bit too far back. And, we're just going to have to slot in behind. Very tricky final corner, this one. We're going to try and get a good run. You can see, once again, later on the brakes, feathering the car through that corner, running it right out to the gravel. You can do that and not get a track limit warning. Unlike the F1 games, you are allowed to use a bit more of the circuit, which I do definitely prefer, because those of you who have watched me race on the F1 games know that track limits are my nemesis. But into turn 1, you can see, once again, we're very late on the brakes. We're putting the pressure on here. We're able to keep the car tighter than Nicola. And coming into the next corner, this is where we're very strong. And coming in, Nicola brakes really late. We sense the opportunity. We're going to go down the inside, but then she chops back across. A bit of contact there, and yeah, that's not really the move I wanted to make. We do get a 1x, so, it's not too bad, but yeah, we're going to have to take a look at that one again, because it was a bit of a strange one. Definitely not the way we want to go about racing. So as we take a look at it, you see Nicola drifts really wide, and then just cuts back across. We do hit the brakes trying to avoid them, but by that point it was way too late. I just wasn't expecting them to be able to pull the car back across in time, because I thought they'd gone way too wide. Yeah. Very sorry for that. That's not really how I wanted to make the pass, but we do get up into P2. In the end, you can see we did gap Nicola by 5.5 seconds. We caught up to Diego, got the gap to just over a second, but we just ran out of laps pretty much. And that was that race. A P2, so it's another podium. Very, very happy about that. So, keeping that podium streak alive, that's what, 4 in 5 races now? And as you can see, our safety rating is now up to 2.91. So if we can get a decent race, a clean race, our safety rating will get above 3.0 and we will be out of rookies this episode. However, there was a price to pay for our continued success. So we jump in here at the end of qualifying, and yeah, you can see we're now P5. We set a 101.1, which in the last race would have been enough for P2. We're currently P5, we're 9 tenths off. We actually somehow ended up in the top split for this race. So the way iRacing works is everyone who signs up, you might get 60 people signing up for a race, but you can only have 12 on the grid. So it splits it up into the fastest 12, the next 12, and so on and so forth. We got put in the top one, and you can see Marcel has done a 1:0.244. So he's about a second quicker. The guy's rapid. Yeah, we definitely did not belong in this field. We had some absolute aliens, and we're not quite at that pace yet on this game. But this is going to be a spicy one. We need a clean race to get our safety rating up. It doesn't matter if we don't win. We want to get out of rookies because we want to get into some of these faster, more exciting cars. So we're underway, coming down into turn number 1. Decent start, like we said. Not going to go too aggressive. We don't want any contact. You can see we get a huge send in the mirror there. So we're going to go wide, just give the space up. And we're going to lose 2 positions, in fact. We're down to P7 now, which is not ideal, but, at the end of the day, I'd rather have a clean race than win, because I want to get into D-Class, because that's where things like the Ferrari 488 will open up, and they are very exciting cars to drive. Now, we're down to P7, so like I said, it's not going to be good. We're in the bottom half of the grid now, which means we will lose iRating. Not really spoken about that, but we will get to that in the next couple of episodes. Once we're out of rookies, it will become more of a thing, so we'll talk about it then. But the long and short, we want to be in the top half of the field to make sure that our iRating is decent. So we're going to have to try and make some moves, but I don't really fancy having a move on the 2 in front, because you're going to see they are racing each other quite aggressively, is probably an understatement to say. As we end the first lap, you can see the last race we were gapping people. We had massive, the first race, for example, I think the car in third was 20 seconds behind by the end of the race. In this one, we're 3 seconds behind at the end of the first lap, and we're down in P7. So this is very much a top split lobby, some of the fastest people in this time zone in the MX-5. But coming into here, you're going to see these 2 in front really start racing. You can see Andreas, I think you pronounce that. That's going to be another thing you're going to enjoy in this series, me butchering people's names. Yeah, he's getting very aggressive, as we do get an off-track there. It's not what we wanted. And you're going to see, especially into this corner, I don't understand what his play is here. He's just diving it up the inside. They make contact, puts me off a little bit. We get a snap of oversteer. But yeah, this is making me nervous at this point because I don't want to get involved in a crash between these two. I don't want damage. I don't want safety rating points losing. So, you know, we're keeping on watching. He tries to go up the inside there. That's really not a corner that you can overtake on. Again, he takes a really weird line into this one. Seems like he tries to go defensive for some reason, but there's not really a braking zone. So yeah, it's a little bit strange. I'm just getting a little bit nervous about this guy in front. He seems to be very, very aggressive, and I just, like I've said, do not want to get involved in an accident. See, we're just having a little look up the inside there, just see if we can put him off in the mirror. Once again, darting up the inside. You know, very close. They touch on the exit once again. So he's clearly not bothered about his safety rating. And once again, he's going to send it up the inside. Nearly gets a spin. Nearly chops his nose off there. Does the car in front of Juan Soto. So at this point, you know, I'm just dropping back a little bit because I think at some point they're going to crash. It's almost inevitable that these two are going to come together. And as if by my foresight magic, he turns into this corner and absolutely murders poor Juan Soto there. We just about managed to sneak through. We're up into P5. Thankfully, no contact. And yeah. Just learn from that. Do not be so aggressive. It's a 15-lap race, and they've absolutely died on lap 3. So, you know, you've got to be in it at the end to win it. So don't be going for stupid moves like that. But once again, if you recognise that car in front, well done. That's because that is Nicola, the person from the last race that we murdered. So we're going to have to try and get past them and hopefully do it a little bit better. So we're going to jump ahead. The end of lap 7, going on to lap number 8 now. We have caught up to the back of Nicola, but if you look in the mirror, Thomas Rogers has caught up to the back of us. Now, I believe Thomas didn't qualify, so he started from the back and fought his way through. He's very, very quick, but I have noticed over the last couple of laps, you can see there, does appear to be another very aggressive driver. Wants to make the move, sniffing around the rear end, and again, starting to make me nervous. So we're going to have to try and get past Nicola here. See, defense going to move back over to the racing line, so we're going to send it up the inside. A cheeky little dummy there. We do get the move done, no contact. Absolutely clean as you like, and what I'm hoping now is that Nicola, there you can see in the background, absolutely blocking Thomas, an absolute treat. So hopefully we can try and run away now, just build up a gap, because I do not want Thomas anywhere near us, because you do encounter quite a lot of drivers like this that are very, very quick, but they're very impatient. They just want to barge the way through because they think they're faster than everyone. And that makes me nervous in a game like this where safety rating and driving cleanly is so important. You can see we're about 6.7 seconds off the lead, so, you know, at this point, we're probably not going to be in the fight for the win. I'm just hoping, you can see in the background, Thomas did have a look up the inside into turn 1. I'm just hoping we can bridge a gap to him, but if we're going to look in the mirror now, he absolutely yeets it up the inside into that corner, gets the move done cleanly, unlike we did in the last race, and he's now back behind us again. That's not what I wanted to see. But what I do want to see is what's going on up ahead. You can see that gap in the bottom right between Marcel, Jackson and ourselves is actually starting to come down a little bit. They're having quite an intense battle, it has to be said. And you're going to see over the next couple of laps, it really starts to get feisty for the race lead. And it's going to bring us back into it. We're not going to spoil the end. But yeah, it's a very interesting sequence of events that happens at the end of this race. You can see Thomas is starting to close in a little bit because he is just faster at the end of the day, like I said. You can see up ahead, very, very defensive. If you can just see that in the distance, the red and white cars going straight up to the pit wall. You know, they're really starting to fight each other now. And that gap to the leaders is going to start to come down because we're in clean air, driving at our pace. We're in the we've done a 1:0.8 on our last lap, which is, you know, quicker than we did in qualifying. Whereas these guys are fighting. You can see as we come through this corner, look at that delta. It's now down to about 5.5 seconds. So in one lap, we've gained a second. And there are 5 laps to go after this one. So if we can keep this up as we go side by side again, we might be able to catch them. We're going to zoom in just up front. You can see the red car going really defensive. And you can see that gap as we end lap number 10 is under 5 seconds. We are actually catching these race leaders. The end of the next lap, you're going to see again, they're going extremely defensive here, going right up to the inside of the circuit. They are fighting so hard, and it's actually dragging myself and Thomas back into it. Thomas has really caught up now. He's within about 0.4 of a second, but we're within 4 seconds now of the race leaders. And at this point, I'm just hoping Thomas does the smart thing. If we work together here, if he doesn't try and fight me too much, we can catch these guys before the end of the race and then be in a fight for the lead. If we start battling now, though, you know, we're going to cost each other too much time. We need to get up before we start fighting. Again, very aggressive up in front, and the gap's now down to about 3 seconds. So we're actually catching the aliens. We're actually doing a pretty good job in this race, just running to our pace. We've been very consistent. I think most of our laps in clean air, within about a tenth and a half of each other. So we're really starting to get to grips now with this little Mazda in what might be our final race, remember, because we could get out of rookies in this one. You see, coming around the final couple of corners as we go onto lap number 13, and you can see that gap now just about 3 seconds. Once again, they're going to go side by side, but P3 now has got into that battle. So that's 3 cars covered by about half a second, and they're all fighting over the race lead side by side once again into turn 1, costing each other time. I think there may have been a bit of contact up there as those two fight each other. You can see Thomas is sniffing around at turn 1, but we're just, you know, we're defending the inside a little bit. We're not costing each other time at this point, and yeah, hopefully we can continue to sort of work together. But my big fear is that Thomas is going to try and just send it on these last couple of laps before we get a chance to get up to these race leaders. You can see the gap now under 3 seconds, about 2.5 seconds to P2, as again they're going defensive into this corner. And you know, we're starting to believe at this point a podium could be on the cards. Considering we were P7 at the end of the first corner, that would be quite some recovery drive if we can manage it. Can we keep this podium streak alive? Remember, we've got 4 podiums in our 5 races at the moment in iRacing. And yeah, hopefully we can keep it going. On to the end of lap number 13, you can see we get a little bit wide, a little bit of oversteer through there. And Thomas is now right on our gearbox, so we're going to have to go defensive. This is not really what I wanted to do, so we're going to go over to the pit wall. He's going to stick in the slipstream, going to force him around the outside, but I know what he's going to try and do here. He's going to try and get a switchback, so we're going to brake a bit early, park it on the apex, give him no room to get underneath. He's going to go for it anyway. He's on the grass. There's contact! And we're spun around. Yeah. Really frustrating, that one. Is, you know, we'll look at it again at the end of the race, but it's, yeah, I thought we had it covered. We did brake so early. He's just gone for the move anyway. Like I said, we will review it because that's one of the things you need to do in iRacing. You don't have the full picture, so we'll look at it after the race. But you know, a bit disappointing that we could have maybe had a podium in that one, and instead we are going to be what? We're going to be P6 at the moment, so right in the middle of the pack. I do believe that Marcel, who was one of the people fighting for the lead, does unfortunately disconnect. So it will be P5 at the end of the race, but it could have been so much more. And, you know, the worst thing, like I mentioned, I keep banging on about, is that safety rating. If you are looking to get into iRacing, you are, you know, a rookie, that is what you need to avoid. Doesn't matter if you win, I've said it again, doesn't matter if you win races. Drive cleanly. You see, you get the white flag now, second to last lap, going on to the last lap. And you can see just how much time we've lost. That car that just went through turn 1 was Thomas. So we've lost a huge amount of time. And yeah, we'll cut ahead to the end of the race. You're going to see come across the line. Like I said, we do get P5 because the leader does end up disconnecting. But yeah, not what we wanted. So let's have a look at this incident. You can see we park the car on the apex. He goes for the move anyway, gets a little bit on the grass. And yeah, it just has a little bit of a wiggle and takes us out. We did speak about it after the race, he apologised, so it was all good. It's just obviously a little bit disappointing because we were having a really good race. But have we got the all-important safety rating to get out of rookies? He's done it! Yes, we do. We're up to 3.4. A little disclaimer on the way it works for those of you who aren't aware. Once you go over a whole number, and obviously we went from 2.91, we went above 3, iRacing gives you an extra 0.4 just to help bump you up a little bit more. But we did get enough just to get out of rookies in that race. Fantastic news, both for me, because it means, you know, we're no longer a rookie, we're a D-class licensed driver. Good news for you, because it means next episode we get to do something a little